Hi, my name is Marissa Osborne, and this is my evidence-based change project. I'm a PPOTD student at the University of St. Augustine. This is an outline of the presentation that I'm about to give to you. First, we'll discuss the problem and the P-code question, followed by evidence, my selected change model, database evaluation, dissemination, conclusions with practice recommendations, and of course, I will provide you with my references. As I am an occupational therapist in a preschool program in Beverly, Massachusetts, a public preschool program, in recent years I started to catch on and parents were commonly citing concerns related to sleep in their children. So discussing with myself and other evaluators upon our initial evaluation of their 3-year-olds that their children were having difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, that they felt that this lack of sleep impacts behavior, their attention span, results in irritability, and ultimately really disrupts the child's life, the parent's life, and the family unit as a whole. As I began to understand this problem a little bit more, I then realized that it was easy for me to identify those students in our preschool program who were having difficulty with sleep. They had difficulty really maximizing their potential as students in the classroom. They had difficulty accessing their curriculum overall. They were clearly and evidently fatigue during the day, difficulty with attention in the classroom, irritability at times, problems with behavior, and therefore, this has become a concern not only of parents, but also as to myself and my colleagues in our preschool, realizing that this is a problem. And as occupational therapists and other practitioners, what can we do to shift our practice a little bit to help to address this problem and positively influence children's sleep patterns? Sleep is a public health concern in children. Up to 50% of children in the U.S. suffer from sleep insufficiency and disturbance. Sleep is really vital in the prevention of childhood diseases, and a lack of sleep leads to a higher risk of accidents, injuries, depression, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and suicidal attempts. When we look at sleep through the lens of occupational therapy, decreased sleep or sleep insufficiency results in decreased occupational performance, decreased engagement, decreased occupational participation, and an overall life imbalance and decreased quality of life. This problem leads me to my P-code question. In children who suffer from sleep insufficiency, does 1 month of behavioral intervention compared to the use of melatonin improve sleep? The population is children who suffer from sleep insufficiency. The intervention is behavioral intervention. The comparison is the use of melatonin. The outcome is improved sleep, and the identified time period is 1 month. I performed a systematic literature search. I did an advanced search using CINAHL, PubMed, and the USA database. I used a variety of keywords, including many synonyms. I searched for full text only. I published only articles published between the year 2011 and the present. I eliminated all duplicates, and then I eliminated those that did not meet my inclusion criteria. As you can see, a list of my keywords there. And my inclusion criteria was that articles were written in English, they were peer-reviewed, they were original research, they focused only on my identified population, and they focused either on the intervention in my P-code question or the comparison. This Prisma flowchart is an illustration of the described process that I went through in my systematic search for literature. I again used PubMed, CINAHL, and the USA database. I found a bunch of records and articles. I removed all of the duplicates. I screened them using my inclusion criteria, and then I took out those that did not meet my inclusion criteria, those that were not full text, and it resulted in 7 either quantitative analyses or meta-analyses that I reviewed. In reviewing this literature, the evidence that I found had many common ideas, many common main ideas throughout all of the evidence, and those common ideas are the following. So first, the evidence suggests that the use of cognitive behavioral therapy for children with sleep disorders results in desirable outcomes. Although that there's a sufficient amount of evidence at the current time, it's of course suggested that we can always do more. So it's suggested that we increase this body of evidence that currently exists with high quality research and large sample sizes focusing on children as a population. The evidence suggested that there's no harmful or non-desirable effects, nor are there any risks involved in the use of cognitive behavioral therapy. It was also suggested in the evidence that cognitive behavioral therapy be utilized and is most effective when utilized for 4 to 8 weeks. And so this is how I identified my time period in my PICO question. Cognitive behavioral therapy can not only improve sleep generally, but also specific sleep disorders. Melatonin can also improve sleep in general, as well as specific sleep disorders. However, the evidence suggests that there are risks associated with the use of melatonin, and there's also a lot of uncertainty around the recommended dosage for melatonin use in children. The evidence that I reviewed overall has a sort level A, so it's consistent across all of the articles that I reviewed, all of the high quality randomized control trials and the systematic reviews that I read and went through. And also all of the recommendations are based on a quality of life, so they are based on an improvement of symptoms associated with sleep disorders. Now that I have all this evidence, I selected Cotter's 8-step change management model to elicit change within my preschool program. So first, I will go through those 8 steps and kind of discuss with you what my plan is to elicit change in the preschool. So first, I would develop and deliver a very motivating in-service to my colleagues, discussing the importance of sleep in children and discussing the problem that we face with our students in the preschool. I would kind of create a sense of urgency in doing so. I would then identify the OTs that I work with as the champions of change. And this is because occupational therapists have a strong knowledge base and skill set that already includes cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is within our scope of practice. It's familiar to us, not only as cognitive behavioral therapy, but also sleep, as sleep is identified as an occupation. My vision for the change project would be to improve the sleep habits of the students in our preschool. It's as simple as that. I would showcase this vision and communicate this vision to my colleagues and the rest of my team and to parents. I would also offer opportunities for feedback and brainstorming sessions to discuss what's working, what isn't working, how can we tweak this change project and this process in order to improve our outcomes and see greater success. I would update everybody on the team and my colleagues on a trimester basis, reviewing the data. I would again encourage ongoing communication, and ultimately I would anchor the change by implementing the change throughout the entire preschool, so suggesting that teachers, paraprofessionals, and other related service providers are using cognitive behavioral strategies throughout their day within their practice, embedded in the daily routine in the classrooms to help to improve students' sleep overall. The outcome that I'm measuring is improved sleep, and I would do so by using a sleep journal as a tool, a measurement tool. This is an identified tool in the evidence that has been identified as reliable. This sleep journal would be given to parents, and they would take measurements of their children's sleep, so the number of hours slept for a 1-week period. This would be the baseline data prior to the intervention. And then following that 1-week period, we would perform 4 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy. That would be the intervention period. And then following that 4-week intervention period, we would ask parents again to journal the number of hours slept for a 1-week period. So this data is being collected on the same group of children, both before and after the intervention period. Parents would record in their sleep journal, and then I would collect the sleep journals, input, and analyze all of the data. The dependent outcome variable is improved sleep, and it's measured in time, and time is a numeric ratio variable. So I would identify the mean in that 1 week baseline period or the average, and then I would compare it to the mean or average in the 1 week period following the intervention. And those two means would be compared using a paired t-test. All of the data would be tracked and analyzed using formulas in an Excel spreadsheet. Now that I have all of this great information, I need to spread the word. So I would do so by disseminating the information in my change project on an institutional level in staff meetings and professional development days throughout my district. I would also offer an opportunity to sit down with the superintendent and other administrators who are interested. And lastly, on that institutional level, to the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. On a local level, I would suggest presenting orally to the school committee and discussing the importance of sleep in our students and how we can influence and impact a positive change in sleep patterns in our students. And then lastly, presenting formally, either orally or in a poster format at venues such as Massachusetts Association, OT Association, or the American OT Association, or the Massachusetts Partnerships for Youth, which is an organization that provides continuing ed to educators, and their mission is really focused on wellness, which aligns nicely with sleep. My practice recommendation is that behavioral intervention improves children's sleep disturbance and insufficiency. And so OT should be utilizing cognitive behavioral therapy within their practice to improve sleep in their pediatric clients. These strategies can also be implemented by other practitioners on the multidisciplinary team and should be, because the evidence suggests that it works. Cognitive behavioral therapy works and elicits positive results. The AOTA's practice guidelines also support this evidence. Future considerations, I would suggest possibly implementing this change project with different populations, such as adults. My P-Coat question, the answer to my P-Coat question is yes, behavioral intervention improves sleep in children. The evidence is strong, it's consistent. I would suggest using Cotter's 8-step change model to elicit the change. I would suggest using a sleep journal as a measurement tool and measure the data on the same group of children both prior to and after the intervention. I would compare the means of the data that's collected in those two time periods using a paired t-test, and I would analyze and track all the data in an Excel spreadsheet. I would disseminate the information on an institutional, local, state, and national level in a variety of venues and formats, both formally and informally. If you have any questions, I welcome you to reach out to me on my USA email address. And these are my references. Thank you very much.